It's me, Justine Dvorak from Stationery by Justine, where when I craft, my world stands still. Recently, I had a comment on one of the Facebook groups that I run where someone asked a question about how to heat emboss. So that is what this video is going to be all about. Plus, I'm going to show you a wobbler in action. I'm using Pajama Crafter Stamps products today. So that would be the Yeti Friends. That's where I got this Yeti from. And then I also have this deer. The deer is from another set. I will grab the name of that in just a minute. I have a ton of stuff from Pajama Crafter Stamps. And right now I've been working with their products a lot, so they are kind of all over my craft room right now. It is from a set called Woodland Friends. And then I'm going to add a sentiment from this stamp set called Seasons Gifting. So let's start off let's start off with stamping with clear embossing ink and white embossing powder. This is my go-to for sentiments. It looks really cool with a colored cardstock with a white sentiment. It just pops. So I'm going to choose the one that says Yeti or not, it's your birthday. It's your birthday. Okay, we're going to use a little stamp block here. Nothing fancy. Now this is the first time I've used this stamp. So anytime a new stamp is brought into my craft room, I always do the whole like rub it on your hand thing, because there is, from most companies, I can't really think of one that doesn't, but the stamps have a little residue on from how they were made. So just give it a little wipe. Then I'm going to use this, which is from Rabbit Hole Designs. It is an anti-static tool. So there's a little clay in here, and I will just lightly brush that over where I'm going to stamp. If I need more, I can turn this and I'll hear clicking, and that's releasing more of the clay there. Then to store, I just push it up, put the lid on, and it's good to go. Then I'm going to use clear embossing ink. So I've had this for like 3 years, and I've re-inked it. It's been a tried and true. I will just take the stamp and get it nice and inky. Since this is brand new and the Versamark ink is very sticky, I'm going just to get a good amount on there. Make sure everything is covered. Now sometimes with sentiments I will use my Misty, so I could stamp a few times. I'm just going to keep it really simple today and use a block. So I'm just going to be cutting, just going to be stamping one time. So already you can see that that made kind of a watermark look. That's what this is called, the watermark, but it is clear. Then to wash this off, I will just set it to the side for now, but we'll get to that in a second. Now I keep my white embossing powder in a sandwich container from Dollar Tree. I'll just cover up the embossing powder onto the stamped area. Sometimes I like to kind of let it sit there for just a second or two and then tap away any excess. Now if there is a section where there's a lot of excess, you can always take like a tool or something that you have and just kind of tap it or scrape if there's a little spot that you want to make sure is not covered with the powder. But in general, if you use an anti-static tool first, it's going to be fine. So don't bump that. I'm going to then get my heat embossing gun. This is a heat tool. It is nothing fancy. This one is called, I don't even know where I got this. I might have even got this from when my mom gave me most of her craft supplies, but any heat gun will work. Mine has a very hot and a medium, or it has a low and a high, we'll just say that. I usually use the high but I let it get hot first. I'm going to let this get nice and hot. If you want, you can use a little kickstand. I'm not really fussy about it, but that can help if you're setting it down on a surface. But this is a hot tool, so be careful. This is going to be hot after I heat it, so don't touch it right away. Let it dry. This is basically melting the plastic little beads that are in the heat embossing powder. So I'm going to turn it on high and let it warm up, and then we will heat emboss. Ready? It's now pretty hot. Let's heat emboss it. Okay, before I begin, I just want to mention I'm going to heat it, but not so much that it is going to burn anything. Just enough to melt the little beads, but not enough for it to lose its shine. And if it warps, I am going to flip it and just kind of heat the back a little. But this is basically the motion I'm going to do without the heat. Get it nice and hot, melted. If it's warped, I might do a little zhuzh on the back, but that's it. So let's do it with the heat now. That's it. You can tell right away when it's melted because it definitely becomes more of a shiny plastic look. You can see it reflecting on the light. But my paper didn't really warp too much. You can see there is a flat look at it. Again, this is a scrap, so it's going to be cut and it will go on my card and it will look great, but right now it's looking a little shabby chic. So after a couple seconds, it is cool to the touch and you can see what it feels. It definitely gives like a bumpy texture, but again, be careful if this is hot. Cools down after a bit. Okay, now I'm going to trim that down and finish up this card, but I want to show you how to use black embossing ink with clear embossing powder, because that is how I like to do sentiments when I want the sentiment, so the words, to be black. This is how I like to do it when I have it white. So when I'm using a sentiment set that is black, I like to use black ink, again from VersaFine. So let's grab a sentiment. I'm going to use the one that says Dashing Through the Snow because I made my little reindeer, well, my deer into a reindeer, a little Rudolph moment with his nose. So I'm going to use Dashing Through the Snow. This is such a cute set with the sleigh. I do love this one. Then for getting my sentiments on straight, if you put it on, it can kind of get wonky. So I like to just set one side on, make sure this is clean-ish, set one side on and just let it fall. It naturally will go into a straight position. If you want to get fussy, you can use the grid lines on your stamp block if you have grid lines. To me, I'm not too fussy, and that laying down technique really works pretty much most of the time. I'm going to just go ahead and use my anti-static tool again and store it properly. Now for this, the reason why I like black ink and clear powder is that you can see here on the white, there are tiny little pieces here of the white that strayed and then is now melted onto my sentiment. If I were to do that with black, there would be black little speckles everywhere. And if that's the look you're going for, you go. But when I use black and white, I want it to be a clean look. So if I have clear powder and there's powder that gets kind of all over, it will be clear and not black. So no one will see it. So here we go. I'm going to position it into the corner here and try to get it straight enough where I only have to cut two sides. Like that. Oh, that font is so fun, isn't it? Okay, well, hey, hold on. Is that the same font as this one? Am I just crazy? I think it's the same font. That must be like subconscious that I did that. Okay, now this is the clear powder. It looks a lot like the white, so if you're going to dump your powder out, be sure to label them. And I'll just dunk it in. You can even use a little spoon. I do keep a little spoon in my craft room, but for right now it looks like I don't really need it. Get it in there, let it set, and tap off the excess. I think I just said access, the excess. Okay, and I'm going to heat emboss this the same way I did the other sentiment. You're really going to see the shine on this one come through, because right now with the clear powder, it's making it look very muted. But watch this. Make sure it's nice and hot. Here we go. Just a few seconds, it's all ready to go. Now that just kind of makes the project look even more exciting and finished, or more polished, if you will, as opposed to just stamping it with black ink and not heat embossing it. But it definitely has a texture to it, so that is super fun. I have lots of videos on my channel already about using embossing powder with embossing folders. So if that is something that's interesting to you, check out my channel. I have lots of videos of how I craft. So now I'm going to take my mini trimmer here and I'm going to position it so you can see. I'm using this clear line as my top and just trimming away. Now, if your stamp sentiment had a die cut, you could certainly die cut this out after you heat emboss. But this one is just going to get cut out. This is my mini trimmer from Tonic and Tim Holtz. Okay. Now this one, because I positioned it in the corner down here, I only have to cut across on the top and right here. I don't have to cut here or here because that's already a straight line. So a little hack for cutting. It makes it a lot easier to die cut out sentiments when you're starting with two edges that are straight and ready. Now these are still good. I'll save these in my white scraps. Anytime I have white scraps, I save them for sentiments. Well, really any scrap that's of a decent size, I will save. Alrighty, so that's gonna go something like there and here. Now let's get to the wobbler. I know that the main part of this video is the heat embossing technique, but I do love these wobblers, so we're gonna talk about how I use them. So on the wobbler, the ones that I use, they have a thin piece on the back, a thick piece on the top, and I like the thick part to go onto this thing that's going to be wobbling. On this card, it's going to be my Yeti. So I'm going to take the release tape off of the thick part, and I'm going to put it on my Yeti as straight as I want, right about there. Then on the back here, there are these two little pieces that just peel right off. And this is going to go onto my project. And I'm going to put this on, put my Yeti on straight, so when he wobbles, he will be kind of wiggly. But as long as that first press is straight, now he's good to go. Look at that. How fun are interactive cards? I mean, come on. That is so fun. So then I'm going to put the sentiment right down here with some foam, and I'm also going to pop up these things here in just a second, but I will do that off camera and come back and show you the result. So I've gone ahead and added the sentiments. Let me know which one is your favorite in the comments. I will just note the backgrounds for these briefly as I finish up the video. This one has Lawn Fawn patterned paper. This one has Pink and Main foiled snowflakes, and then I die cut out the circle with Trinity stamps, one of their A2 circle dies. So these are super fun. I think my favorite has to be the reindeer one, just because it's the Christmas season, you know? Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you have any more questions, let me know in the comments. I would love to help you. We'll see you next time. Bye, Crafty friend.